So, peace and greetings. This is Artist. uh, Two subjects that I wanted to touch on this morning for the live. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. So, the first thing I wanted to touch on is the use of AI. And people have a lot of fears behind the use of AI and if it's going to, disrupt their industry that they're in, if it's going to, the big question with AI is it conscious? Is AI conscious? Right? That's the question. And I've heard a lot of back and forth about it. And there's an idea or a concept. It's called the problem of consciousness. Right? So scientists have gotten to a point where they have come across a brick wall when it relates to consciousness and it relates to where it comes from. There's debate that when the body is producing, the brain is producing the consciousness, and once the brain goes, then the consciousness goes, right? So therefore, it's an internal situation. According to the materialists or the scientists, they believe that the mind is the control all, right? And once the mind shuts off, everything is gone. You as everything is finished, finite, kaput. And then you have folks who have the understanding that, or the belief that the soul is eternal, and then that once you, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. We're talking about yoga and consciousness and AI. Is AI going to be conscious? Is it conscious? And so, talking about is where consciousness comes from right now. Okay, and so hello to Squeeze. I can't pronounce all that, but hello, peace. How are you doing? So, is consciousness local? Is it in the mind, or does it is it coming from somewhere else? Right. That's the question that we want to ask ourselves. And the now how you figure this out is you have to start from the outside, right? That and think about what are the things that we are aware of. Okay. Hello, Kinsley Keller. Peace. Thank you for joining. What are the things that we are aware of? Okay. So you can look at a tree. It's an object. I see that. That is a tree, right? And then you come further and you look at your hand. You look at it. You okay, this is my hand. So what is observing your hand? Okay. Your eyes see the hand, right? And the light reflected transmits to the brain, tells you this is a hand based on the memory of what you know as a hand. This is a hand. You go further, what is seeing the hand? Your mind. Your mind is seeing everything around you. Now, let's go even deeper. There's a point where you can see the mind, right? You observe your thoughts. You see your thoughts. You analyze the thoughts. Okay, so what is that sees the thoughts, right? What is that recognizes the thoughts in your mind? Some call it that voice in your head, your conscious, whatever it is. But where it, who is the observer of that, right? Because you observe everything else. So who is the observer of the thing that is observing, right? You you are at the core, at the base. You are the observer. Therefore, the observer comes from the outside. Thank you. I appreciate that. Habitual three. Appreciate that. So yeah, you ask the question: is the consciousness coming from outside or is it coming from you? And I was saying that you observe everything, right? Everything you observe. Well, who is observing all of these things? Who knows about the hand? Who sees through the eyes? Who thinks the mind? Who analyzes the thoughts? Who is that? That is your consciousness, okay? And that is not connected to your brain. That is not connected to your mind. It's not a. It is you are your mind, your brain. We have in there what's called a pineal gland. Okay, you are a transmitter. You are receiving information. You are receiving energy from somewhere else that is animating this body. Okay, that is animating this body. It's like a robot, so to speak. I hate to use that analogy, but a super sophisticated robot because we are in control of this meat wagon, right? So the question is, what happens? Like, is it what happens when this physical body no longer is operating? The energy that is uh, powering this body does not die. Ask the scientists. They'll tell you that energy is never created nor destroyed, right? So the energy that's moving this body never dissipates. That is who you are. You are the observer. You are not the observed. Everything in your world you can see and observe, but there's something that you can't see. There's something you can't observe. That is the seer. You don't you can't see the seer. You can't go all the way back. You can start from the beginning, tree, hand, eyes, mind, brain, thoughts, and then who's looking at those thoughts? It's you. That is something that, in my opinion, will never be part of a machine when we're talking about this AI situation. That will never be part of a machine. A machine will not have consciousness. The machine cannot have consciousness. So that's my personal opinion on that, on the AI situation and the machine. Is it going to be conscious? No, it's not going to be conscious. It's going to be conscious up to a point, but it won't possess the a consciousness. Right. So, anybody have any questions about that? You can shoot, or any comments or concerns about that. The AI situation. I'll look at those. And then the other thing I wanted to talk about is the one yoga pose. Okay, there is a lot of stuff with yoga. There's a lot of stuff, right? You got all of these books to read. You have all of these yoga styles that people talk about that are the best. My style is the best. This style is the best. And sometimes they don't, but you have a lot of different types of yoga. You have a lot of information on yoga. It can get overwhelming. When I first started, I, s- I was obsessed. And so I was reading all the information I could get my hands on, right? And so the one posture that we're talking about, there's only one, like I said, there's one posture in yoga that we need to focus on, right? That posture is the seat, it's the seat of the asana. It's the asana. So there's posture and then there's asana. It's two different things, two major different things, right? Two major differences between a asana and a posture. All right. Now, a posture is something that, hello, um, Ayola778, thank you for joining. So, a posture is something that you are working into you move fast with it. You don't hold it for that long. it's not necessarily stable and controlled. It's, you're just moving through the thing, right? When a when a posture becomes an asana, how does a posture turn into an asana? A posture turns into an asana when it becomes steady and agreeable. Steady and agreeable. Siddha Sukhamasana, Yoga Sutra, says it says you're doing postures, you're doing poses, right? It is not an asana until it becomes steady and agreeable. Okay, so all of the asana, all of the postures that we're doing, we want to try our best to try to turn those things into asanas. All the postures, you want to try to turn them into asanas. How do we do that? We find the uh, appropriate variation for us, and really easy blocks, bolsters, pillows, all of those things. You want to use those and incorporate those into your yoga practice in order to create asana. Now, most yoga studios out there, most yoga classes, really, unless it's like a yin class or something like that, but they don't really give you a chance to uh, get into and connect with these postures and try to work them into asanas. It's so fast. It's like go, go, go. It's the majority of the classes in the majority of the yoga classes out there are aerobic style go, 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 right? And then on the other hand, and on the other side of that, some you got some classes like that are super stringent, and a lot of control is exhibited, and pushing and forcing, right? You also have that. That's not good. Here's my recommendation: go to a yoga studio that you enjoy, you like it, right? Take some classes, but do your research, okay? Do your research. And by research, I mean doing your yoga practice at home also by yourself. That's where you get the full benefit. Yes, go to a yoga studio. I'm not saying don't go to a yoga studio. I teach in yoga studios. Been teaching in yoga studios for 10 plus years, right? 11 plus years actually. But make sure you're taking that practice that you have at the studio home and do research, right? So because you want to do what? What are we talking about? We're talking about turning the postures into asana, and we're talking about the one asana. Okay, so like I said, work on making what you're doing steady and agreeable. You want to spend at least 30 seconds in each pose. That's where you're going to get the full benefit. At least 30 seconds. 30 seconds equates to almost right along the lines of 5 really deep breaths. Big inhale, all the way taking the air all the way in, full maximum capacity of the chest and the body, and then exhaling all of the air out. Full inhalation, exhalations in each pose, each breath is going to get you right about is going to get you right about 30 seconds. That's what you want to shoot for. That's going to be hard in the yoga studio because it's like go, go, go. But when you have the yoga, when you go to the yoga studio and you see the postures and you go home and you do your research, you find the yoga postures that work for you, right? And you hold those. Find it, create your own sequence, right? I'm a practitioner of Ashtanga Yoga. Now, I learned the primary series and second series of Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga. I don't follow a strict regimented flow anymore. anymore. When I first started yoga, when I first started practicing Ashtanga, I did the primary series every single morning. Well, except for Saturdays. On Saturdays, we take an oil bath. It's a very um, laid out schedules, very stringent practice, very hard. You push yourself. I practiced that for some years, okay, and then one of my teachers told me after you practice Ashtanga yoga for 10 years, that is when you can take the series and move it around and change things for your own personal body what works best for you, right? Because you can't keep following that series for your whole life. A lot of things will happen. It's not healthy for your mind and your body to follow the same sequence every single day for years and years and years. It's not healthy. You want to change things up, but you want to create a base, a foundation for yourself, right? And I have found that Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga gave me a great foundation. Looking at the first and the second series of Ashtanga, I combine those. And a lot of teachers do that. A lot of the old school teachers of Ashtanga will combine the first and the second series and give that to a practitioner. That's really all you need. All the other ones are more acrobatic and show offy kind of thing. You don't really need that. The first and the second series is really all you need. And then you practice those, with a teacher, and then you develop your own personal practice out of that, right? And so go to a yoga studio, look at some yoga poses, take some yoga classes, do your research at home, look online, make sure you try to work with a teacher. You want to work with a teacher that, because it's good to have an outside eyes looking at you, and it's good to have a teacher look at your yoga practice to try to, maybe move some things around, tell you, hey, maybe you should put your hand here and there. It's good to work with a yoga teacher, but excuse me, but remembering that you are your first yoga teacher, right? You are the one that is going to really develop your practice, because it's just about you. So let me tie this all together. The asana, the one asana that I talked about in the beginning that we want to do, that we want to learn, is the seat of meditation, which is what I'm sitting, which is what how I'm sitting right now. I'm sitting in a cross-legged seated position with with my back nice and straight, reaching the crown of the head towards the ceiling. Right. That's the asana that we're looking for. That the meditation seat. All of the physical asana practice that we do to the body, to the body, for the body, is to get us into a seated position. The side effects are being in good shape, skin looks great, all that kind of stuff. Those are side effects of doing the yoga practice. And that's what a lot of people have gotten caught up in today's society. They want to look good. And they have taken yoga and turned it into an aerobic exercise. They put it into a yoga studio, or they open a yoga studio, put a couple of other aerobic style classes around it, and you've got a gym, you know a lot of I'm speaking on a lot of yoga studios. I'm not speaking on every single yoga studio. There's some really great yoga studios out there, right? Really great yoga studios out there, but a lot of them are just gyms and places to go work out. And you're not going to get the full benefit of yoga. Like I said before, I told the story once of a person who comes across a plane, right? And they see the plane, and they don't know anything about planes. They don't know anything about flying, but they know how to drive. So they get into the plane and they start operating it like a car. And it's like, and they think to themselves, well, these things on the outside are in the way, the wings. So they get out, cut the wings off, and they start driving the plane around. And like, okay, it works now. And then the pilot sees that and starts crying and weeping. That's what we're doing with this yoga practice in the West. We're cutting the wings off. We're not getting to the spiritual aspect. We're not focusing on the things in the asana that are gonna, the things in the yoga poses that are gonna get us to that seat of meditation. It's all about getting a workout. It's all about physical, right? And we have to get out of that. Looking at the eight limbs of yoga, yama niyama asana pranayama pratyahara dharana dhyana and samadhi. If you're practicing yoga, you want to study those eight limbs of yoga, right? Those are going to get you where you need to go. And okay, so I'm going to go ahead and end this live, but three things that make up a really good yoga practice, right? The three things. The first one is discipline and tapas. Tapas is discipline. You want to have discipline. The second thing is savadya. You want to have self study. You want to be making a study of yourself, figuring yourself out, right? And the last one is called Ishvara Prahitaha. You want to surrender yourself to a higher being, higher energy, something of something that is above you to a certain extent, right? Something that is like your higher self. A lot of people like to think about their higher self. I'm going to focus and become one with my higher self. You know what I mean? The best person that I can be. Some people, it's God. They have a representation of God, and they say, "I'm going to be like the divine God that I worship." Right? That's where you can get into. And this is kind of a side note, but you can put any religious thing that you want to into yoga. Let me say that again. If you are a Christian, Buddhist, Jehovah's Witness, whatever you are, you can use yoga to help further your faith, right? Because yoga is not a religion to a certain extent. Yoga is a science. So there's a term that I said just a moment ago. It's called Ishprana Parahitaha. That means it means what you worship. Because there's so many different ideas about God in India. You know what I mean? No, every you got some people that worship Hanuman, Krishna, um, you have Vishnu, Shiva. You have so many different names and forms, but they're all talking about the one thing. But they use a name and a form that best suits their personality, that best works for them. And so you have that idea of it's whatever you worship. And so if you're a Christian and you can whatever you worship, Jesus, God, whatever, boom. That's Ishvana Parhidaha. That's Jesus. Ishvana Parhidaha is Buddha. Ishvana Parhidaha is Allah. Ishvana Parhidaha is Krishna. It's your chosen deity. Ishvana Parhidaha is your higher self, whatever it is. So those three things: discipline, self-study, and surrender to the divine, whatever the divine means for you. Right. So that's it. I'm gonna cut this short. Thank you for watching. Again, any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave those. And I'll see you again on tomorrow morning. Peace.